Welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep today into a case that really, shook the nation, the Watts family murders. I'm sure you guys remember those headlines.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're going to go, like, way beyond just, the surface level stuff. We've got a really detailed Wikipedia article as, like, our guide.
Okay, cool.
So August 13th, 2018, Frederick, Colorado,
Yeah.
Christopher Watts. He's an oil field worker.
Mm-hmm.
He commits just this, like, unimaginable act.
Yeah.
Murders his pregnant wife, Shanann, and their two daughters,
Oh, wow.
4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste.
So sad. And it's important to understand, I think, that, this isn't just some, random act of violence. Or
Right.
This falls into, like, a terrifying category called family annihilation,
Yeah.
familicide, where a family member, usually the father, kills the entire family.
Ugh, so disturbing.
Yeah.
And there's that chilling pattern, too. Like, it often happens in August, right before the kids are supposed to go back to school.
Oh, right.
It's like, I don't know if that delay in anyone realizing something is wrong, with the family being gone, is part of the factor or not. But it's weird, right?
Yeah, that is a weird correlation for sure. It's like a back to school deadline almost.
Instead of a celebration.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
And to make it even more, I don't know, complex, I guess, Chris Watts at first, he was playing the grieving husband.
Right.
He even, made public pleas for their safe return.
It's so classic, that manipulation. You see that a lot in these cases, and it's important to remember, behind all the news stories and the legal stuff, these are real people, real lives just completely destroyed.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's rewind a bit.
Okay.
Christopher and Shanann met in 2010, got married in 2012, had their 2 beautiful daughters, and they were actually expecting their son, Nico. On the surface, they just look like, your typical picture-perfect family.
Yeah.
Living in a 5-bedroom house in Frederick, Colorado.
Yeah, but like so many families, they had their struggles too, like they filed for bankruptcy in 2015.
Right.
And, that could suggest some financial stress. That could be a factor.
Yeah, and their careers were very different, too.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Christopher, he worked for Anadarko Petroleum,
Yeah.
which, is a pretty stable job.
Yeah.
Oil industry.
Sure.
And Shanann, she was selling this this product called Thrive for Lavelle,
Okay.
which is a multi-level marketing company from home.
Oh, wow. And that's a really important detail, I think. Multi-level marketing, it can be a really, really tough business. It relies on like building this big network of sellers, and sometimes the pressure to recruit and sell can get really intense.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It does make you think, though, if, having such different work lives and then having that financial strain on top of it,
Yeah.
if that created, some tension in their relationship.
Yeah. It's certainly possible. It just reminds you, too, that even like, quote unquote, perfect families on the outside can have, hidden pressures.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go to that day, a fateful day. It started out like any other. Shanann was coming back from a business trip to Arizona,
Uh-huh.
and her friend, Nicole Atkinson, picked her up from the airport.
Oh, okay.
Brought her home early in the morning on August 13th.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't long before things took kind of a sinister turn. Nicole, she started to get worried when Shanann missed, like, a doctor's appointment for her pregnancy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and she wasn't answering her texts or her calls. And then when Shanann didn't show up for, like, a work meeting, Nicole knew something was really wrong.
Right.
So she went to the Watts house, but no one answered.
Oh, my God.
It's the kind of thing that sends chills down your spine.
It really is, yeah.
And she called Christopher. He was at work, and he seemed totally unconcerned,
Oh, wow.
which, made her even more scared. So that's when she called the police to report Shanann and the girls missing.
And that's when the investigation started?
Yeah. Police searched the house, and there weren't any signs of a struggle or forced entry.
Right.
But they found some, like, really unsettling clues.
Oh, like what?
Well, Shanann's purse was there. Her keys and her medication were still inside. Her phone was, like, tucked between the couch cushions.
Oh, my God.
And her car was still in the garage with the girls' car seats in it.
Wow. It's like they vanished
Totally.
into thin air.
And there's one more thing. Her wedding ring was just sitting on the bedside table.
Oh, my gosh. All these, like, seemingly little things. It's like they're painting a very, very unsettling picture.
Yeah, that wedding ring especially. I mean, that was like a giant red flag for investigators. You know, it suggested that this was like way more than just a missing persons case.
Right.
Um, so they brought in the FBI and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation the next day,
Okay.
and that's when things took a big turn. So Chris Watts, he kept insisting that he had no idea where his family was. He even went on TV and like pleaded for their safe return.
Jeez.
But investigators were like super suspicious,
Yeah.
so they had him take a polygraph.
I bet that didn't go too well.
Nope, he failed it. And with that and his stories like not really adding up and him like getting visibly nervous, investigators decided to like really start putting the pressure on.
Oh, wow. So he cracked.
He did. First he confessed to his father that he had killed Shanann.
Oh, geez.
And then he admitted it to the authorities. But his first confession, it was just this like tangled web of lies.
He tried to like shift the blame or something?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
He claimed that Shanann had smothered their daughters.
Yeah, and that he killed her in a fit of rage.
Oh my gosh.
It was just this desperate attempt to like make himself the victim, but the evidence didn't really support it.
So like what kind of evidence didn't add up to his story?
Well, first of all, there was zero evidence that Shanann had ever harmed the girls.
Okay.
And his story kept changing.
Right.
Which is like a major red flag for investigators.
Oh yeah, of course.
Always.
Yeah.
And eventually he led them to the oil field where he worked, and that's when the real horrifying truth came out.
Oh gosh. So that's where they found the bodies.
Yeah. The girls, Bella and Celeste, they were found in separate crude oil tanks.
Oh my God.
And Shanann, she was buried in a shallow grave close by.
That's awful. I mean, what could possibly drive someone to do something so horrific?
You know, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and it's important to remember that like in these cases of family annihilation, there often isn't like one single motive. You know?
Right.
It's usually this really complex mix of different factors.
So like what do you think were some of the factors in this case?
Well, I mean, we know they had financial issues, and there was probably a lot of stress from their different careers,
Right.
you know, and Shanann's involvement with multi-level marketing, and there's also reports of infidelity and maybe even a desire to just start a new life with a new girlfriend.
So it's like this perfect storm of personal and financial pressure.
Yeah.
Maybe even fueled by, wanting to just escape his life.
That's definitely a possible theory. And it's also important to think about the psychology of it.
Right.
You know, some experts think that the people who commit these crimes, these family annihilations, they often have this narcissistic sense of ownership over their families. You know, they see them as extensions of themselves rather than their own individuals.
Gosh, that's chilling. So
Yeah.
so they're faced with this like possibility of losing control and they lash out in just the worst way imaginable.
It's possible. And it's so important to remember that we're dealing with this very, very complex human tragedy here. There's no simple answer to the why.
Right.
So after he led investigators to the bodies, he was arrested and charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder, unlawful termination of a pregnancy, and tampering with a deceased human body.
Wow.
But ultimately he ended up pleading guilty to avoid the death penalty.
Oh, that must have been so hard for Shanann's family.
It was. They didn't want to see any more death associated with this awful tragedy, and they wanted to make sure that he would never be free again.
Right.
So in November 2018, he was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
Wow.
He'll spend the rest of his life behind bars.
A life sentence does seem fitting for a crime like that. But, it doesn't bring back the victims.
Nope.
And this case really, it captured everyone's attention.
Is that it?
There's been so many documentaries, news specials, even a Lifetime movie. It's a story that just keeps fascinating and horrifying people.
And understandably so. This case, it touches on some of our, like, deepest fears, loss of innocence, betrayal of trust. It makes you think about how fragile family really is.
It does.
And it makes you wonder how something like this could even happen in a family that seems so normal.
It also makes you think about the role of like the media in all of this.
Right.
We've seen so many true crime documentaries and podcasts, and in this case, it's been everywhere. But it just makes you wonder about like responsibility and what impact it has on the families.
Yeah, for sure. Like take that Lifetime movie that they made. about the Watts murders.
Right.
Shanann's family, they really hated it.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't even consulted or anything while they were making the movie, and they were worried that it would just lead to more online harassment, which, they were already dealing with.
It's such a tough situation. I mean, there's definitely public interest in cases like this.
Yeah.
But it's so important to think about, how the families feel,
Totally.
their privacy, and how do you even tell a story like this accurately without, making it like sensational or exploitive?
It's a tough balance to strike, and we see different approaches to it. Like, take that Netflix documentary,
Yeah.
American Murder: The Family Next Door. They used a lot of raw footage, like home videos and social media posts, text messages.
Yeah, I remember that one. It really gave you a sense of who Shanann was,
Yeah.
like her personality, her hopes,
Mm.
her dreams, for her family. It just made it that much more heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it reminds us that these cases, they're not just, stories. They're about real people with real lives and real people who are left behind to deal with it all. It's something to keep in mind, I think.
Yeah. We talked about a lot in this deep dive, but the question that I keep coming back to is why? Like, what could possibly push someone to do something so awful to their family?
It's a question that haunts anyone who looks into this case.
Right.
And there's just no easy answer.
Right.
We can look at the evidence, the money problems, maybe problems in the marriage,
Right.
but we can't get inside his head. We can't really know what made him do it.
It's true. And it's a reminder, I think, that even in families that seem totally normal, there can be darkness underneath.
Yeah.
And it also leaves us with this feeling of, I don't know, like responsibility.
Mhm.
Like, what can we do
Yeah.
as individuals and as a society to prevent these kinds of tragedies?
Well, I think it starts with awareness.
Yeah.
We need to learn about domestic violence, recognize the warning signs,
Yep.
and be willing to say something if we think something's wrong.
And we need to support mental health resources.
Absolutely.
Make it easier for people to get help
Yeah.
when they're struggling.
Yeah, early intervention can make a huge difference. And we need to change the idea that men need to hide their emotions, or that asking for help is weak or something.
Totally. We need to encourage healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Built on respect, equality, open communication. I mean, it's a long road, but even little steps can make a difference.
They can. And in this case, as awful as it is, it can make people start having important conversations. It forces us to really think about some tough stuff about our society and what we can do to make the world a better place.
It's a lot to take in, but as always, we encourage you guys to keep learning. The Wikipedia article, that's a great place to start.
Definitely.
It's got tons of information, links to other things you can read, resources if you want to learn more.
Yeah. Take some time to just think about what we talked about today.
Yeah.
Think about the issues and how they might relate to your own life.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, knowledge without action, it doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
So what can you do, even in a small way, to make a difference? That's something to think about as we wrap up our deep dive. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Until next time.
Tell us what you think about this episode. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.